Welcome to Get Your Mind Right, Boots on the Ground, where we spotlight professionals in the field who have overcome challenges and how they work through them. Their stories offer real-world insights and tips for thriving in today's competitive landscape.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Get Your Mind Right. This is the world's only daily video podcast made especially for merchant services and digital marketing professionals. Now, with me here is Evolve's Director of Operations, Megan Sims. Good morning, Megan.
Good morning, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. And I appreciate you coming back again to help us wrap up this series on resiliency. So Megan, I want to talk about confidence because that's how you ended up your original huddle on this. Talk to me about confidence.
Confidence. Love it. Love it. You have to have it, right? Most people do have it. However, it kind of fluctuates throughout life, right? Your confidence, the confidence that you have in yourself and your ability. I think that it has to do with comfort zone and where you're at with that zone. Of course, you have your basic comfort zone. You're safe, you're feeling good, you're confident. You're not overly confident. You're at a base level. You have your fear zone where you're intimidated. You lack that confidence. You have lesser there, but you could be leaning towards the learning zone, right? I know that when I'm learning, I'm also in a fear zone. I'm kind of in that middle ground. Because it's new, it's something that I haven't done before, usually because I'm learning. So those kind of overlap, your fear zone, your learning zone. But the learning zone, you're problem solving, you're being receptive to outside input, you're getting that mentor. Then once you do learn, you're in growth zone. So fear zone, learning zone, I'm lacking confidence, but I'm building it back up. Growth zone, I've regained that confidence. So all throughout life, you're going to have confidence waves in and out, downs and ups. Getting confidence back to me and finding that confidence is feeling it, number one. But what I mean by that is looking at my mentor, seeing what they're doing, how they're acting, kind of taking some of that energy, hoping that they can support me in whatever way possible to boost my ego, or whether it be my clothes, my attire, how I'm presenting myself. But I find a mentor. I find somebody that I want to be like, right? They are the one that is doing all the right things. They're in that growth zone. They've been in that growth zone. That's where I want to be. Mm-hmm. So I follow them. I follow their lead. I take their advice. I be patient with myself. I realize that I am just a human, learning as I go. And my confidence will come back. I just have to work towards it each and every day. And it's the little things that build that confidence for me. Getting up a little bit earlier, writing out my daily, first thing in the morning. I sleep with a notebook beside my bed. If I think of a thought at night that is going to get me closer to overcoming the learning zone, getting me closer to that growth zone, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to look into that tomorrow. But being comfortable being an educator of my position and myself in life to build that confidence back up.
I love this subject, by the way. It's Bobby Knight got one of the best quotes ever off on confidence. He said that in his estimation that confidence is really overrated. He said, if a kid can shoot a basketball well, he's got confidence. If he can't shoot, he doesn't have confidence. So you hear that and you're like, yeah, duh, right? Okay, so I get that, but how do I get to shoot the basketball, right? But when you peel that back, it does make a lot of sense. And the reason I bring that up is that I just know that, like me personally, of someone who's had, and we've all had this throughout our lives, where you lack confidence, for very good reasons, because you don't know what you're doing, right? And the advice I've gotten when I felt that way, and the advice I see people give folks all the time who don't have confidence, it's terrible advice. I mean, they're really telling them the opposite of what they should. Like for example, is you go into a situation, especially if there's other people involved, there's pressure, is they say, oh, well, just don't worry about it. Don't let it get to you. Or just go in there like you don't care. That is exactly what I'm feeling right now. And by you telling me that, you've just underscored those negative feelings that I have right now.
Yeah, so I think it's beneficial to remember that everybody gets nervous, right? I was nervous to come on the podcast. It's my first time doing a podcast. It's new to me, but there was a time it was new to you, right? You did it for the first time at one point, and now you're fully confident in it. And I do look up to you in certain aspects of business and in life, and that's something that I can gauge off of, right? So kind of the fake it till you make it type thing, but also a understanding of someone did this first, just like me.
Mhm.
They were guessing all the way through. They did it. I can do it, and I will do it.
So let's relay this back to like what we're doing in our jobs and being successful. And you said this, I think it was on our first episode of this. You talked about finding a mentor. And I just think that is so important. And I don't care what your job is here. I don't care if you're operations, if you're sales, you're accounting, you're in digital marketing. When you're new, I mean, you really shouldn't have a lot of confidence because you don't know what we're doing, right? But
Right.
when you've got that trusted mentor who has a vested interest in you and the company, that's really going to boost your confidence because you're going to lean on them, and those folks are going to give you great advice and put you on the right path. So
Yeah,
you
most
made
definitely.
that.
And
Go ahead.
they can also, excuse me, they can also pump you up too, right? So
Yeah.
they're boosters as well. I know I have several mentors, all different operations, accounting, sales, back office. So I have people all over the entire office that I either look towards for mentorship or that come to me for mentorship. And the main thing is supporting them when they're lacking confidence, yes, but also being there for the wins, being able to brag a little bit about your successes. I'll give you a perfect example. So I am on the global advisory board, and when we did the nominations for global committee chair heads, I was selected for training, and I really take an honor. I take that as an honor. So I want to brag about that. That's something very unique, something I'm excited about. I have a lot of ideas that I want to discuss towards it. And I had someone connect with me about mentorship. Perfect time, right? I can communicate this to them openly. I can express my happiness and how it went, the confidence that I lacked for the first 2 minutes of the meeting when I was running that for the first time and also hosting the meeting for the first time. It was a lot of stress in those first 2 minutes. I didn't know anyone on the call. Am I supposed to have the agenda? Am I supposed to be the one running through this, or is someone from global taking the control or the reins?
Mhm.
So there were a lot of questions going in. I tried to get them answered before the actual meeting so that I wouldn't lack that confidence. And it helped me throughout the whole way, right? So those questions that I had answered pertained to training, what people would want to see, and that was the frame up for the entire meeting. Doing those steps up front set me up for success throughout, even though I didn't know how it was supposed to go.
Mhm.
And then having that person that looked to me for mentorship that I could tell them of, hey, I did struggle here, right? I'm not perfect, but this is what I did up front to decrease the lack of confidence, and it worked
Mhm.
for me. It worked really well, and the outcome was great. So giving them that overall analysis will help them in the future when they have an occurrence like that.
I equate this, especially in our business, Megan. This confidence. At the end of the day, it's about winning. It's about our company winning. It's about us personally winning in our jobs, and it's really easy. You as an ex-athlete, it's really easy to tie that to a metaphor. And something that really sticks to me is, I don't know if you saw this, but when COVID was going on, that's when ESPN released the Reign of the Bulls that was called Last Dance, right? And I'm not a basketball fan by any stretch, but I watched that whole series through 2 times, and it's just extraordinary. And one of the things that happened during that is that Michael Jordan, the Bulls, they couldn't get past the Pistons. And Michael Jordan, arguably during that time, although they couldn't beat him, he was recognized as the greatest player in the game, and was going to be one of the greatest players to ever play basketball, right? But they couldn't get past the Pistons, and one of the things that Jordan realized, and this goes back to what you said in episode 2, on your self-assessment on how resilient you are. And Jordan looked in the mirror and he said, I'm not tough enough. These guys are stronger than me, they're tougher than me, they're putting me on the floor. Now keep in mind, this is the greatest player to ever play the game. He says, I gotta get stronger. So Jordan in the season, Michael Jordan resolved himself to put on 20 pounds of muscle, and he come back on the court, and you see him that season to season difference. It's striking. I mean, he looks like a different guy, and it's mind blowing. You think this is the greatest player to ever play the game, and yet he realized he had to elevate himself to meet his next layer of goals. So it's just really mind blowing. It gives hope to people like you and me to get to the next level in our jobs.
I can't wait to be a professional basketball player. No, yeah, that's perfect, right? He is very successful. Did he have to do that? No.
No.
He could have stayed right where he was and still have
great.
the success that he had, and yeah, celebrity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that, to him, that's not what he's here for, right? He's here to grow further. So he had that self-awareness. He had that stopping point. I need to go back to the drawing board. He probably worked with some mentors on gaining that weight up, and then he reached his next goal. So it's huge. And to do that, he probably had to drop back to that fear zone, right? Because now he's in the learning zone, fear and learning. He's out of the comfort, and then he's moving towards growth.
Yeah, and for him, I definitely was fear, and part of it was anger too. I mean, that just losing was just unpalatable to him. So,
Right.
so Meg, I want you to take us home on this. One of the things that you wrapped up your original huddle is on the goal setting, and how you move the needle, and how you mark on how you mark your progress. So, for yourself, how do you do that? How do you hold yourself accountable? How do you measure your own goals, and how do you say, yeah, you know what, I am moving myself to the next level?
I do have an overall goal. That is something that I work towards. I don't pitch that out to everybody, but I have steps that I take, different parameters within each that I need to hit. Once I exceed a parameter, then I move on to that next step. But it's basically minor educational steps to get to the overall goal. So I break it out as I need to learn this to get this goal. And then once I knock off one, I'm closer to it, right? My goals are kind of short term. To me, they're about a month long, and I shouldn't be working on it longer than a month. I tend to lose track of goals if they go out much longer than that. So having the steps to each goal, having a parameter for each, knowing the parameter is the first step, right? So that's a lot of the learning too. And then once I overcome it, getting that goal, and then immediately once I have the goal and I've met the goal, celebrate it, number one, talk about it, and then create a new one.
Very good.
Constantly rotating them in and out. And I do have some sales items. Now, I know we talked about resiliency in this, because emotional resiliency and just resiliency in general is something we do every day. But from a work standpoint, it also trickles into your life too, right? It's the same things that you're working towards. And I do have quotes from our sales team, if you would like to hear those.
I'd love to.
Okay, so these quotes are from them when I question sales. How do you remain resilient? What do you do in your day-to-day? We have one from Bailey Warsdorfer, and it says, I trust my intuition. I know what needs to be done, and I handle it. I know by learning from prior experiences. Exactly what we're talking about here, right? And they had not seen this presentation yet, so I feel like we're getting on the same page here. Whitney Johnson, I focus on communication and follow-up. So in her instance, right, she's building her confidence right now. She's learning, so she is focused on communication and follow-up so that she can learn, so she can grow. So that's a perfect quote for her. Bree Miracle, I don't let the bad bother me. I see the full picture. She sees that overall goal, the end goal. Yeah, I'm going to have hiccups along the way, but I can overcome those, and this is the end goal as to why I will have the ability to do so and the steps I can take. Jonna Seaton, I use my resources and training to provide confidence and resolution to the client while I research and discuss a full response with coworkers. That's perfect, right? It's a whole mix of it. She's educating, she's growing, she's working with others, a mentor, and then she's communicating back to that client. We've got another one here from Bree Miracle, think positive, find motivation. Her motivation being family and a potential new home, right, which she did get this year, which is fantastic. And then lastly, another here from Jonna, fully understand the merchant scenario to decrease the back and forth. But I also think it's a big thing to fully understand the merchant emotion too, right? Understand where they're coming from so that you know how to react, understand your audience, which kind of brings up my next training that I'm wanting to do, which is communication, soft skills, and learning how to communicate well to get your point across, but to not be overbearing or not heard. So,
You know, I think it's interesting is I have the benefit of knowing and working with all these people, and every one of those comments you just made was all about mindset, right? And those are things that literally they could write on their wall and say, hey, this is how I'm going to approach this. So, Megan, I tell you what, this has been great. I appreciate you coming on the show. Will you come back in the future and do another one with me?
I would love to, John. Would love to.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. All right.